One evening, two high school girls, Tomoko and her friend Masami, are supposed to be studying. Their books are open, snacks are scattered across the floor, and a baseball game is playing on the television with the sound turned off. Instead of studying, Masami starts talking about a rumor that has been spreading from one person to another. Masami says an elementary school boy once stayed with his parents at a guest house in Izu. Before leaving, he recorded his favorite television program. The problem was that the television stations there were different from the ones in Tokyo. The tape should have recorded nothing except static. But when the boy returned home and played the tape, a woman appeared on the screen and said, "1 week from now, you will die." Masami points at Tomoko while repeating those words, making her jump. Masami laughs, but Tomoko doesn't. Instead, she asks where Masami heard the story. Masami says everyone already knows it. Tomoko becomes serious and says she watched a strange videotape a week earlier while staying with 3 friends. One of them found an old tape, and out of curiosity, they decided to watch it. She says the images on the tape were strange and difficult to understand. Right after it ended, the phone rang. Someone answered, but no one spoke before the call ended. Tomoko looks at Masami and says that happened exactly 1 week ago. The room becomes quiet. Masami looks at her, unsure whether to believe the story. A few seconds later, Tomoko smiles and admits she was joking. Both girls laugh and the tension disappears. Masami starts teasing Tomoko about the boy who joined the trip. Tomoko denies anything happened between them, and the conversation becomes light again. The phone suddenly starts ringing. Both girls stop talking. Tomoko looks at the clock. The time matches the moment she remembered from 1 week earlier. Masami quietly asks if the story was actually true. Tomoko doesn't answer with words. She only nods. Trying to prove there is nothing to worry about, Masami walks downstairs and answers the phone. After listening for a few seconds, she smiles and hands the phone to Tomoko. It is Tomoko's parents. They say the baseball game has gone into extra innings, so they will be home later than expected. Tomoko hangs up and both girls laugh again. They feel relieved that nothing happened. Masami goes upstairs to use the bathroom, leaving Tomoko alone in the kitchen. Tomoko takes a glass and opens the refrigerator to pour herself a drink. While standing there, she hears cheering coming from another room. She follows the sound. The television has turned on by itself. The same baseball game is playing, even though she switched the television off earlier. Tomoko picks up the remote and turns it off again before walking back into the kitchen. Tomoko picks up the bottle and begins pouring her drink. She stops. Something behind her catches her attention. She turns around. Her face changes. Before the audience can see what she is looking at, the screen cuts to white. The story now follows Reiko Asakawa, a television reporter who is working on a story about the videotape rumor. She interviews 3 schoolgirls and asks them what they know. The girls repeat the same story Tomoko had heard. One of them says a woman appears on the screen and tells the viewer they will die in 1 week. Another says the phone rings after the tape ends. When Reiko asks if anyone has actually died because of it, the girls hesitate. One of them remembers hearing about a high school girl and her boyfriend who were found dead inside a parked car only a few days earlier. She also says they had watched the videotape before they died. Reiko leaves the interview and returns to the television station. While talking with her cameraman, they discuss how many rumors begin after a real event and then spread from person to person. During the conversation, Reiko notices that every version of this story seems to lead back to the same place, Izu. Before leaving work, she notices a newspaper article about the young couple found dead inside a parked car. The report says there were no injuries and no clear cause of death. The police are still investigating the case. Reiko asks her co-worker, Okazaki, to collect more information about the victims and contact her as soon as he learns anything. After work, Reiko returns home and finds her young son, Yoichi, waiting for her. She quickly changes into black clothes because they are going to attend a funeral. While helping his mother get ready, Yoichi asks why Tomoko died. Reiko tells him that Tomoko became very sick. She reminds him not to upset the family, and the two leave together. They arrive at Tomoko's funeral. Only now do we learn that Tomoko was Reiko's niece. Family members, friends, and classmates have gathered to pay their respects. Reiko speaks with her father, who tells her that Tomoko's mother is resting because she is having a difficult time accepting what happened. While the adults continue talking, Yoichi quietly looks at Tomoko's photograph on the memorial altar before walking away from the room. At the same time, Yoichi walks upstairs by himself and enters Tomoko's bedroom. He stops in front of the television without saying a word. A few moments later, Reiko finds him there and tells him they should not enter someone else's room without permission. Yoichi quietly follows her downstairs. As they are leaving, Reiko receives a phone call from Okazaki. He tells her that the girl mentioned in the newspaper attended the same school as Tomoko. Reiko immediately realizes there is another connection between the deaths. Before leaving the funeral, she speaks with several of Tomoko's classmates. They tell her that Tomoko, Yuko, and another friend all watched the same videotape during a trip. They also say the phone rang immediately after they watched it. One of the girls explains that another friend survived, but was so shocked that she refuses to go near a television. The next day, Reiko watches police footage of the young couple found inside the parked car. As officers open the door, the girl's body falls sideways. The expressions on both victims' faces suggest they died after seeing something, but the doctors found no injuries and no medical explanation. The investigation reaches another dead end. Instead of giving up, Reiko returns to Tomoko's house and goes back into her bedroom. She carefully looks around the room. On the desk, she notices a receipt from a photo shop. The photographs were never collected, so Reiko takes the receipt with her. Before she leaves, Tomoko's mother quietly points toward the closet and tells her that this is where Tomoko died. Reiko remembers finding Tomoko's body inside the closet after she had already passed away. Holding the photo receipt, Reiko leaves the house. Reiko visits the photo shop and collects Tomoko's photographs. The first few pictures show Tomoko and her friends enjoying their trip. They are eating together, walking around, and smiling for the camera. Nothing looks unusual. Then Reiko finds a photograph of Tomoko, Iwata, and another young couple standing in front of a sign that reads, Izu Pacific Land. It is the same place mentioned in the rumors. She continues looking through the remaining pictures, most of which were taken inside and around the cabin where they stayed. Everything looks like an ordinary vacation until she reaches the final photograph. It was taken just before they left. All four friends are standing together, but their faces are blurred while the rest of the picture remains perfectly clear. Reiko studies the photograph before putting it away. Later that day, Reiko prepares dinner at home. Yoichi walks into the kitchen and tells her that Tomoko watched a cursed videotape. Reiko immediately tells him not to repeat those words at school. Yoichi agrees and leaves for class. After he leaves, Reiko decides to visit Izu herself. The next day, Reiko drives to Izu Pacific Land. She walks through the resort until she finds cabin B4, the same cabin shown in Tomoko's photograph. She tries the door and finds it unlocked. Inside, everything appears clean and ordinary. She searches the room carefully before turning her attention to the television and VCR. She checks inside the machine but finds no videotape. Reiko switches on the television and checks the channels. Everything appears normal, so she switches it off again. On the table, Reiko notices a guest notebook and begins turning through its pages. Most of the entries are simple messages from families who stayed at the resort. One child has even drawn a picture of his family. She continues reading, hoping to find something connected to Tomoko or the videotape, but there is nothing useful. She closes the notebook and leaves the cabin. After spending the afternoon searching, Reiko stops at a nearby restaurant for dinner. She thinks about everything she has found so far, but none of the clues explain where the videotape came from. Before returning home, she decides to ask the resort staff one more question. She shows Tomoko's photograph to the reception clerk and asks if he remembers the 4 teenagers who stayed there. While the clerk searches through the guest records, Reiko notices a shelf filled with rental videotapes. Among all the labeled movies, one videotape stands out. It has no title, no label, and no writing. It is sitting inside a plain white case. Reiko asks the clerk about the tape. He removes it from the shelf and examines it, but finds nothing written on it. He says one of the guests probably left it behind because nobody ever came back to claim it. Reiko takes the tape and returns to cabin B4. She closes the door, places the videotape into the VCR, and waits. At first, only static fills the screen. Then the recording begins. The first image looks like a circle in the sky. Another image follows, showing a woman standing in front of a mirror while brushing her hair. For a brief moment, the mirror changes position, revealing someone dressed in white behind her before returning to its original place. The recording continues with one image after another. Words flash across the screen. Crowds of people appear. A covered figure points into the distance. A close-up of an eye fills the screen. Finally, an old stone well appears. Then the tape ends and the screen returns to static. Reiko switches off the television and remains seated for a moment. As she looks toward the dark screen, she notices what appears to be someone standing behind her. She turns around immediately, but the room is empty. At that moment, the telephone begins to ring. Reiko answered it. No one speaks. Only the same strange sound heard on the videotape comes through the receiver. She hangs up the phone and looks at the clock. Exactly 7 days remain. Reiko quickly removes the videotape from the VCR, picks up her coat, and leaves cabin B4. She now knows that the rumor was connected to a real videotape, and the next person she turns to for help is her former husband, Ryuji Takayama. Reiko contacts her former husband, Ryuji Takayama, and tells him everything she has discovered. She explains the rumor, Tomoko's death, the videotape she found at Izu Pacific Land, and the phone call she received after watching it. Ryuji listens carefully before deciding to watch the videotape himself. When the recording ends, they wait for the phone to ring, but nothing happens. Even so, Ryuji believes the tape was created by someone for a reason. Before leaving, he asks Reiko to make a copy so he can study it more carefully. The next day, Reiko watches the videotape again at the television station. She pauses on the image of the well and studies it closely, hoping to notice something she missed the first time. Okazaki brings her the guest list from Izu Pacific Land. But after checking it, Reiko finds nothing that explains where the videotape came from. The investigation has not moved forward. Later, Reiko visits Ryuji with a copy of the videotape. Together, they watch it frame by frame. Ryuji notices that the woman brushing her hair is standing in front of a mirror, but the person recording the scene never appears in the reflection. Reiko also notices the brief image of someone dressed in white standing behind the woman. They continue examining the recording and stop at the words that flash across the screen. Most of them are incomplete and difficult to read, but they can recognize references to a volcanic eruption and local residents. They still do not understand what those words mean. Their work is interrupted when Ryuji's student, Takano Mai, arrives at his apartment. After she leaves, Reiko and Ryuji continue studying the videotape. Ryuji slows down one section of the recording and increases the volume. Hidden beneath the strange sounds, they hear a short sentence spoken in an unfamiliar dialect. Ryuji writes the words down and decides to find out where the dialect comes from. The following morning, Ryuji calls Reiko with new information. He has learned that the dialect is spoken on Oshima Island. He also discovers that the volcanic eruption mentioned in the videotape refers to Mount Mahara. Their investigation now points toward Oshima. Reiko and Ryuji meet at a library and begin searching through old newspaper archives. After reading several reports, Reiko finds an article about the eruption of Mount Mahara. Beside it is another article describing a local woman who claimed to have predicted the eruption before it happened. Her name was Shizuko Yamamura. The article explains that she became known because people believed she possessed psychic abilities. Ryuji believes the woman brushing her hair in the videotape is Shizuko. They decide they need to learn more about her. Knowing that only a few days remain, Reiko takes Yoichi to stay with her father while she continues the investigation. She tells her father that she still has work to finish and leaves Yoichi there for the time being. That night, Ryuji calls again. He tells Reiko that Shizuko died many years earlier after jumping into Mount Mahara. He plans to travel to Oshima the following morning to continue investigating her past. Reiko realizes there is very little time left before the 7 days are over. During the night, Reiko wakes after hearing Tomoko's voice. She notices that Yoichi is no longer beside her and walks into the next room. She finds him sitting in front of the television. The videotape is already playing, and it reaches the final image of the well before ending. Reiko rushes to him, removes the tape from the VCR, and asks why he watched it. Yoichi answers that Tomoko told him to watch it. Reiko realizes that Yoichi has now watched the videotape himself. Without wasting any more time, she prepares to continue the investigation with Ryuji. Their search now leads them to Oshima, where they hope to discover who created the videotape and how the curse began. Reiko and Ryuji travel to Oshima Island to continue their investigation. They begin asking local people about Shizuko Yamamura, hoping someone still remembers her. Most people avoid the subject, but they eventually meet Takashi, Shizuko's cousin. He tells them that many years earlier, Shizuko became well known because people believed she had psychic abilities. ESP researcher Dr. Heihachiro Ikuma organized a public demonstration so that others could witness her abilities. During the demonstration, several reporters were present. One journalist publicly accused Shizuko of being a fraud. At that moment, the journalist suddenly collapsed and died. Everyone believed Shizuko was responsible. Through a vision, Reiko and Ryuji learn that it was actually Shizuko's young daughter, Sadako, who caused the reporter's death with her psychic power. After the incident, Shizuko's reputation was destroyed, and she later ended her life by jumping into Mount Mahara. Even after learning this, Reiko and Ryuji are unable to discover what happened to Sadako. As they prepare to leave Oshima, Reiko remembers something important. When she watched the videotape in cabin B4, the telephone rang. When Ryuji watched the same tape later, the phone never rang. They realize there may be something inside the cabin that they have not discovered. Without wasting any time, they return to Izu. Back at cabin B4, they search the building once again. They remove the floorboards and discover a hidden crawl space. Inside it is an old stone well. Reiko immediately recognizes it as the same well shown at the end of the videotape. They understand that the final image was pointing them to this exact place. As they stand beside the well, another vision reveals what happened years earlier. After the incident involving the reporter, Dr. Ikuma brought Sadako to the cabin. He pushed her into the well and covered it, leaving her trapped inside. Reiko and Ryuji believe Sadako survived there for some time before dying. They conclude that the curse was created from the anger Sadako continued to project while she was trapped in the well. Believing that returning her remains to the surface may end the curse, they decide to recover her body. They drain the water from the well and climb down inside. After searching through the bottom, Reiko finds Sadako's skeleton. She carefully carries the remains out of the well and holds them in her arms. Several police cars arrive outside cabin B4. Officers begin recovering Sadako's remains, while Reiko and Ryuji sit nearby, wrapped in blankets, watching in silence. As they talk, Ryuji notices that the bruise on Reiko's wrist has completely disappeared. Believing the curse has finally ended, he tells her that everything is over and takes her home. Outside Reiko's apartment, they stand quietly for a moment before saying goodbye. Ryuji tells her to get some rest because he still has to finish his thesis. Reiko thanks him and they go their separate ways, both convinced that they survived by bringing Sadako's body out of the well. The next morning begins like any other day. Reiko sits quietly at home as the sun rises. Across town, Ryuji is back in his apartment, working on his thesis and drinking coffee. For the first time in days, everything seems normal. Then something changes. Ryuji suddenly hears a strange metallic sound. He stops writing and slowly turns toward the television. The screen switches on by itself. The final image from the videotape appears. The old stone well. Ryuji stares at the screen as the sound grows louder. Then a hand reaches over the edge of the well. A second hand follows. Slowly, Sadako pulls herself out of the well. Her long hair hides her face as she drags herself forward. The television fills with static while she moves closer and closer. Ryuji can only watch. Just then, the telephone rings. He suddenly realizes it is Reiko calling. He rushes toward the phone and answers it, but he cannot take his eyes off the television. On the other end of the line, Reiko speaks to him. Before Ryuji can answer, Sadako reaches the front of the television. Then she steps out of the screen and into his apartment. Ryuji stumbles backward in shock. Sadako slowly rises to her feet and begins moving toward him. Ryuji tries to escape, but his body grows weaker with every step. He collapses onto the floor, unable to move. Sadako stands before him. For a brief moment, one of her eyes becomes visible through her hair. The instant their eyes meet, Ryuji screams. Then everything becomes silent. Still holding the telephone, Reiko hears the sounds from Ryuji's apartment suddenly stop. Realizing something has happened, she drops everything and runs to his apartment as fast as she can. She rushes to his apartment and finds that recovering Sadako's remains did not end the curse. Looking at the copy of the videotape, she understands why she survived while Ryuji did not. She made a copy of the tape and Ryuji watched it. The curse continued instead of ending. Reiko remembers that Yoichi has already watched the videotape. If she does nothing, he will die in 7 days. There is only one way to save him. She must copy the tape again and make someone else watch it. Carrying the videotape and the VCR, Reiko drives to her father's house. She has already decided who will watch the tape next. To save her son, she is prepared to pass the curse to her own father. The film ends before she arrives, leaving the audience with the cost of her decision. So that's the story. If you enjoyed this recap, leave a like and subscribe. Thanks you for watching.